You can have your
Main event of the evening.
ready to race to you.
These days are
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today we are discussing Season 8, Episode 10, It Only Hurts When I Smile.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens in It Only Hurts When I Smile.
We open in the Cunningham living room, where Joni is showing Marion the strapless red dress she's wearing to Jenny Piccolo's sister's wedding, worrying that it makes her look too heavy or too tall.
Mom, does it make me look too heavy?
Not at all.
Fonzie rushes in, demanding aspirin for his toothache. Marion offers to call the dentist, but Fonzie shuts it down, insisting it only hurts when he drinks something cold or hot or sweet. Marion still wants to call the dentist, but Fonzie still won't have it.
I promise you that it'll take care of itself, all right?
Howard comes home and is horrified by Joni's dress. Marion says she made it, but that fails to comfort Howard, who insists Joni wear a sweater over the dress when she wears it to the wedding. It's going to be the third wedding for Jenny Piccolo's sister, but this one will be different. She actually knows the guy's last name. Chachi enters, and Howard insists on no kissing Joni until the dress is off. Chachi is fine with this.
No kissing until she takes that dress off.
Now you're talking.
At Arnold's, Potsy meets up with Fonzie, who is in a bad mood because of his ongoing toothache.
I tell you something, Mr. Payne is running amok here. I could walk over barefoot over glass. I would feel better. What do you do about eating?
He's been having all of his food blended. Lori Beth brings him a cheeseburger and french fries and a salad. Yeah, they're all blended. It's very gross. She tells Fonzie to just call the dentist, and so does Potsy, but he still refuses. Al recounts how when he saw the dentist, he had to have 3 teeth filed down.
3 days grinding.
Joni comes by to pick up Chachi, and Al is surprised Joni is going to the wedding in that dress. She's so pretty, no one will be looking at the bride. She and Chachi leave, after she tells Fonzie that dinner tonight will be steak and corn on the cob. At the Cunningham house that night, Fonzie is eating his food in very tiny bites, while still insisting to Marion that his tooth isn't a problem.
I'm savoring every bite.
He snaps at Marion when she tries to call the dentist, then apologizes, and she passive-aggressively tells him she won't butt in anymore. Later that night, Fonzie has brought a date into the Cunningham living room so he can write Marion an apology note before going up to his apartment with his date. They start making out, and then Fonzie moans in pain. Realizing that he can't kiss her properly, she leaves.
Is this how you're gonna kiss from now on?
Well, yeah, for a while, you know.
See ya.
The next night in the living room with Howard and Marion, Fonzie says he can't date if he can't kiss. Howard asks why he can't go see the dentist when he's jumped his motorcycle over garbage cans and water skied over a shark and ridden a wild bull. Fonzie insists he's not afraid of the dentist. Howard asks if it's not fear, what is it? Fonzie recounts the story of Samson, likening his teeth to Samson's hair.
Are you trying to tell me that you think your teeth might be responsible for what makes you, special?
Also, he really doesn't want the dentist's drill anywhere near his mouth. Marion says that if he doesn't go to the dentist, all of his teeth could get infected and fall out.
In dentistry, this is known as the domino theory.
Fonzie reluctantly agrees. Marion suggests Dr. Logan, who used to see Richie and Joni, and goes to call him. Marion takes Fonzie to his appointment, into the waiting room full of children, and to the receptionist, who is incredibly condescending.
Oh my, he's a big boy, isn't he?
Until Fonzie whispers something probably sexual into her ear. Then Fonzie plays with a Connect the Dots book until he's called to see Dr. Logan. Fonzie tries to leave before Dr. Logan can do anything, but Dr. Logan manages to get him into the chair. He speaks to Fonzie like he's a small child.
Uppy in the cherry wary.
Until Fonzie snaps him out of it. Fonzie himself is incredibly nervous and babbling the whole time. And then 3 large men who Fonzie knows from a club called the Sons of Death come in to watch as Dr. Logan works on Fonzie's mouth.
What are they doing here? In my eyes. I can't see what you're doing in my mouth. They can. You get my drift?
The dentist isn't able to concentrate with them, so Fonzie sends them back into the waiting room. Dr. Logan knows what the problem is, and he can fix it, but since Fonzie obviously doesn't trust him, Dr. Logan isn't going to beg him to be his patient. Fonzie asks if Dr. Logan is going to pull his tooth, but Dr. Logan thinks they can save that tooth. Fonzie tells him to save it, and even says please.
Pleasey wheezy.
Dr. Logan recounts how he became a dentist to help people, but everyone hates his profession.
Do they like us out there? No.
Fonzie professes to like Dr. Logan, which Dr. Logan is glad to hear, considering Fonzie's big, scary friends. Then Dr. Logan puts on a clown mask. His kid patients love it.
I like this. All right, keep it on. I can live with it.
After the procedure is over, Fonzie's mouth feels great, and he shouts to the waiting room that the dentist is great. He offers to fix Dr. Logan's car for free, and since he doesn't have a car, offers to build him one. Then he tests out his newly fixed kisser by non-consensually grabbing and smooching the receptionist. Back at Arnold's, everyone is dancing to Mashed Potato Time. Fonzie is eating the new Fonzie burger that Al invented. Al himself has to go to the dentist soon, and Fonzie promised to send his Sons of Death friends to keep Al company. Meanwhile, Jenny's sister is already cheating on her new husband.
It's so nice that she's so happily married.
I don't think it's going to work out, Al.
Why not?
Because that's not her husband.
Thank you, Peter. That was It Only Hurts When I Smile. It first aired back on January 27th, 1981. Happy Days was followed by a new Laverne and Shirley, in which Lenny and Squiggy imagined themselves as the stars of silent movies.
It was incredible. Yeah. I mean, it was these movies, all right, yeah. Except they didn't talk. Nobody, not a word. All they did was they just flushed the words up upon the screen. Yeah, so even deaf people could hear it.
Incidentally, Happy Days had been preempted on January 20th when Iran released 52 American hostages it had held for 444 days. This was a huge news story at the time.
Day one of Ronald Reagan's presidency, and day one of freedom for 52 Americans.
The episode Potsy on His Own was supposed to have aired that night, but was pushed back to March. NBC had a new episode of Lobo, in which Deputy Bertie Hawkins poses nude for a male magazine centerfold in order to track down a murderer. And CBS had a made-for-TV movie called The Bunker, about Hitler's last days in an underground shelter during World War II. Anthony Hopkins stars as Hitler.
I'm fighting for Germany my whole life. It's been one long struggle for Germany.
So, Peter, of those three choices, what are you watching?
I am watching Sheriff Lobo, because I am a filthy, filthy pervert.
Personally, I cannot resist the lure of Anthony Hopkins as Hitler, so I am definitely watching The Bunker. It Only Hurts When I Smile was directed by Jerry Paris, and it was written by Barry Rabinowitz. The most recent of Barry's episodes that we covered was Ah Wilderness, back in Season 7. As for guest stars this week, let's start with Warren Berlinger as Dr. Logan. This was Warren's fifth and final guest appearance on Happy Days. Aww. He went on to appear on Laverne and Shirley, The Jeffersons, Cagney and Lacey, The A-Team, Friends, and Columbo. Plus, he had recurring roles on Too Close for Comfort and Shades of L.A. Warren died at the age of 83 in 2020. So, Peter, what did you think of Warren Berlinger as Dr. Logan?
I liked him immensely. He reminded me a little bit of Al in that he's this very sincere, earnest person with good intentions. But unlike Al, he does have enough of a spine to tell Fonzie that if Fonzie isn't going to shape up as a patient, he can just leave and Dr. Logan will work on someone else who needs it. And I really did appreciate the joke about him talking to Fonzie like Fonzie is a small child, because that's just what Dr. Logan is used to. And then he's able to talk to Fonzie like he is a grown-up after that. I also really liked the joke about the clown mask. That was great.
Warren Berlinger looks great in that clown mask, and I think he does a great job as Dr. Logan, this very chatty dentist who is very enthusiastic, I think, about his job. I'm going to miss Warren Berlinger on Happy Days. I always think he's a lot of fun on the show, whether he's a Hollywood director, or he's making TV commercials, or he's a drill sergeant, or a temperamental DJ. Warren's been great for the show, and I'm going to miss him a lot.
My headcanon for Happy Days is that all of Warren Berlinger's characters are long-lost quadruplets.
We also have Martha Smith as Kathy, the dental assistant. Martha is a model and actress from Cleveland who is best known as Babs Jansen in National Lampoon's Animal House.
That boy is a P.I.G. pig.
She was a regular on the 1980s action-adventure show Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
You're going to go to the laundromat, you're going to wash your clothes. At some point, a man will come up and give you a sock.
One sock?
One sock.
Dirty or clean?
She was also Dr. Sandy Horton on Days of Our Lives in the early 80s. Elsewhere on TV, you may have seen Martha on Taxi, Quincy, Charlie's Angels, Dukes of Hazzard, Fantasy Island, Swamp Thing, and Greek. Her other movies include Broadcast News and A Futile and Stupid Gesture. In addition, Martha was Playboy's Playmate of the Month in July 1973 and was married for 9 years to Mel Blanc's son, Noel. So, Peter, what did you think of Martha Smith as Kathy?
I liked the joke about her also talking to Fonzie like he's a small child. In her case, I think it feels a bit more mean-spirited than Dr. Logan. I think with him, he's just used to it, but I think with her, she genuinely thought it was funny that this adult man was going to see a child's dentist. Also, I don't like that Fonzie non-consensually grabbed and smooched her. With the context of her being kind of condescending to him, that feels like some kind of weird, it's okay to sexually harass women if they're haughty to you subtext. I didn't care for that at all.
That's definitely an uncomfortable moment, but I think Martha Smith is actually really funny in this part. As this dental gentle receptionist who's used to talking to kids and treats Fonzie like he's a little kid. Martha Smith is kind of typecast as very perky, overly chipper characters, so she's very funny in this. And also, I want people to check out Scarecrow and Mrs. King. It was a pretty kick-ass show from the 80s that people have forgotten.
Yeah, Sabrina from Charlie's Angels is on it.
We also have Barbara Troitlar as Lois, Fonzie's date. Barbara had a handful of TV credits in the 80s and 90s. Besides Happy Days, she appeared on BJ and the Bear, Dallas, Knots Landing, It's a Living, Hunter, My Sister Sam, and Freddy's Nightmares. She had a recurring role as Dee Dee O'Neill on One Life to Live in the mid-1980s. She later moved behind the scenes and became a production accountant.
Celebrity accountant, doing taxes for the stars. That's me.
Her credits there include The Chelsea Handler Show, She's Got the Look, You're Cut Off, and Flip or Flop Atlanta. So, Peter, what did you think of Barbara Troitlar as Lois?
She gets to make slightly more of an impression than Fonzie's usual dates by virtue of just immediately booking it as soon as it becomes clear that he's unable to properly kiss her with his toothache. And I do kind of like that. You could make the case that all of Fonzie's dates are pretty objectified, and a lot of them don't even get to speak. But I do like the confirmation that Fonzie's girls mostly date him for his sexual prowess, and without that, most of them probably wouldn't give him the time of day.
That, I think, is the most notable thing about the character of Lois. She walks out on Fonzie very casually, and it's like no big deal to her. I also liked the moment of physical comedy when she's trying to kiss Fonzie without actually kissing him on the lips.
It's a very awkward cheek kiss because she's trying to not kiss him on his cheek, but that's what's happening.
Barbara handles that very well. I think it's a funny little moment. By the way, the actors playing the Sons of Death are uncredited. Any thoughts on the Sons of Death?
They do a good job at projecting an undercurrent of menace by virtue of being big, scary men.
And I think it's important occasionally to remember that Fonzie still has ties to the underground criminal scene of Milwaukee. He's not always such a goody two-shoes.
Yeah.
As for songs this week, we hear Personality, a 1957 hit for Lloyd Price, and Walk Like a Man, a 1963 hit for the Four Seasons. But the song of the episode is Mashed Potato Time. A 1962 hit for Dee Dee Sharp. Complete with a demonstration of the dance that goes with the song. I'm hugely into those dance fad songs of the early 60s, so having Mashed Potato Time on Happy Days was fun for me.
So the Monster Mash is not like an actual dance, but some people, when they do the hypothetical Monster Mash, they just do the mashed potato with like Frankenstein arms.
Hopefully we will get the even greater sequel to Mashed Potato Time, Gravy for My Mashed Potatoes.
Oh my gosh, yes, I hope so.
As for cultural and historical references this week, Joni is standing atop an ottoman.
It makes me look too tall. You're standing on an ottoman.
These low upholstered stools were introduced to Europe from Turkey, the heart of the Ottoman Empire in the late 18th century.
The Ottoman Empire? What was this, a whole empire based on putting your feet up?
Marion asks Fonzie, did the good times roll too far last night? There have been a number of popular songs about letting the good times roll, including one in 1946 by Louis Jordan and his Timpani 5.
Don't care if you're young or old, get together, let the good times roll.
And one in 1956 by Shirley and Lee.
Come on, baby, let the good time roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul.
Marion says she's going to call Dr. Harkness's exchange. The exchange consists of the first 3 digits of a phone number after the area code. Each exchange number refers to a central switching office in a large telecommunications system. It strikes me as a very mid-20th century way to refer to a phone number.
Yeah. It's a nice little piece of, not world building exactly, but a nice piece of the people making the show remembering, yes, this is a period piece.
Oh, all right, period movie. Oh, not a period movie.
And also, I wanted to know a little bit more about this other dentist that they don't send Fonzie to, this Dr. Harknessy.
Because Howard lies to Fonzie and says, oh, he's nice, while mouthing to Marion that he's awful. I wonder what would have happened if Fonzie had gone to see him. Probably the Sons of Death would have gotten into some kind of altercation with Harknessy.
That would have been a very different episode, and an episode I would have liked to have seen. Fonzie tells Howard and Marion he fears ending up like Samson. In the Bible, Samson is one of the judges of the ancient Israelites. He is also a strong man capable of performing superhuman feats and is considered an Israeli equivalent of Hercules from Greek mythology. In the book of Judges, chapter 16, Samson is betrayed to the Philistines by his lover, Delilah. who orders a servant to cut Samson's hair while he is sleeping, thus robbing him of his strength.
Samson was the strongest man long ago. No one could have beat him, as we all know, until he loved Delilah. Delilah said, all of the strength is in the hair of your head.
He later regains his strength just long enough to collapse a temple, killing both himself and the Philistines in the process. I thought it was very weird that Fonzie would equate his teeth to Samson's hair.
I figure he was just making stuff up because he didn't want to admit that he was in fact afraid of going to the dentist for childish reasons, and he had to make up some kind of deep-seated psychological issues.
I'm glad you said that because that was my suspicion as well. Howard and Fonzie watched an episode of Gilligan's Island together.
You know what kills me about this show? If they can build a studio and give Ginger a screen test, why can't I just fix that boat and go home?
This sitcom about castaways on a desert island ran on CBS from 1964 to 1967. Fonzie refers to an episode in which Ginger is given a screen test. He might be referring to The Producer, an episode from 1966, guest starring Kathy Silver's father, Phil.
The main thing I know about Gilligan's Island is that years after Gilligan's Island went off the air, it had a sort of crossover episode with Baywatch, of all shows.
They did crossovers with a couple of shows because they crossed over with Alf as well.
Wait, what?
It's Gilligan, the skipper, too.
Who are you?
I'm Alf, your biggest fan.
There was one special where they met the Harlem Globetrotters, which means that there is just 1 degree of separation between Gilligan's Island and Scooby-Doo.
Kathy suggests that Fonzie should send his doctor-dentist mix-up to Art Linkletter. Art was a very popular radio and TV personality, originally from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Art was abandoned as a baby. Linkletter was the name of his adoptive family. He was best known as the host of Art Linkletter's House Party, People Are Funny, and Kids Say the Darndest Things. He also authored a series of books featuring humorous remarks made by children.
I feel like Kids Say the Darndest Things is a precursor to stuff like America's Funniest Home Videos and whatnot. You're basically relying on people to humiliate their own families for your entertainment.
Fonzie says, "You think I'm a little toys in the attic." Toys in the attic is a euphemism for insanity. I know it mainly from the 1975 album Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. Though it was also a 1960 Lillian Hellman play that was adapted to film in 1963. I assume Fonzie is referring to the play or the film.
Go on back to your crazy wife. Don't come crawling back here, you see.
If Fonzie is a Lillian Hellman fan, that's a nice reminder that he can be cultured sometimes.
Other observations? For me, this was essentially the same episode as Fonselectomy. Even taking Fonzie to a children's dentist was similar to putting him in the children's ward of the hospital, except this time Fonzie gets to keep all of his body parts.
Yeah.
But if you're recycling old Happy Days scripts, you could do worse than Fonselectomy. That was a pretty fun episode.
Fonzie is a neurotic drama queen who is just a bubbling morass of emotional issues underneath his cool exterior. Is a pretty solid well to get stories from on Happy Days.
It's nice that Al is the one character who has a wholesome response to Joni's dress.
It's so sweet. Fonzie seems mildly uncomfortable with it. Howard is outright, no, you can't do this. The idea of you being sexualized by other people makes me uncomfortable, and I'm going to make that your problem. But Al just tells her that she looks so pretty that no one will be looking at the bride. It's very sweet.
Howard's easy chair is still gone, and now I'm starting to worry that it will never come back. Notice that Fonzie has to sit on an end table. It does not look comfortable. Just bring back the chair. The chair was iconic. Remember, Fonzie jumped into the chair?
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Happy Days was in a very self-referential mood this week, in addition to a mention of the Junior Chipmunks, and we hadn't heard about them in a while.
Why don't you ever wear that cute little chipmunk outfit anymore?
Because I'm not 12.
There are references to Fearless Fonzarelli, Hollywood, and Westward Ho. That's how you know you've been on the air for a long time, is when you can do a whole bunch of callbacks to old episodes.
Yep.
And the issue of consent is always dicey on Happy Days. And this week, of course, we have Fonzie kissing that dental assistant. That was a scene I think that would be handled very differently if the show were being made today.
Yeah.
So, Peter, were there any outstanding Happy Days fashions in this episode?
So I wanted to talk about the outfit that Lori Beth was wearing when she was waitressing. She's wearing this black V-neck. I wasn't able to tell if it was a shirt and pants or like a bodysuit, but it's very cool. And she tops it off with this blue-green scarf tied around her neck. It's very early 60s. It's a little bit beatnik-esque, and it looks great. It is stylish as hell.
The current Arnold's uniform is best described as beatnik princess meets ballerina, and the old Arnold's uniform was quasi-military or airplane hostess or something. And I was trying to decide which of these looks do I like better. Do I like the stewardess look or the beatnik princess look? And I couldn't decide. Peter, your thoughts?
They fit the different aesthetics that the different Arnolds are going for. Because, before Arnold's was a drive-in restaurant, and now it's vaguely coffee house. But in terms of outfits that I myself would want to wear, I would have to go with Beatnik Princess.
Ultimately, my sympathies actually lie with the second outfit as well. Even though the car hop look from the 50s was so iconic, and they obviously took that from American Graffiti. So, Peter, I will ask that age-old timeless question, was this episode any good?
I'd say it was. I don't think this was anything spectacular, but I do enjoy episodes that are glimpses into Fonzie's deeply distressed psyche. And a reminder that despite the fact that he is this icon of cool, he's also a fountain of neuroses, and he puts a lot of effort and stock into appearing cool. And anything that might be a threat to that is something that he does not want to deal with until it becomes so much of an issue that he has to. So I did have fun with this episode.
Surprisingly, I enjoyed this episode for the reasons that you mentioned. Fonzie breaking down at the thought of going to the dentist, and then this kooky, eccentric dentist that he goes to with a clown mask and all the coloring books and connect the dots books out in the lobby. And I thought that was all very fun. It actually struck a nerve with me because I myself have a horror of going to the dentist, and all the scenes of Fonzie being in pain while trying to eat or being worried about going to the dentist, those very much hit home with me. So occasionally when I was watching the episode for the first time, I was cringing through it. The scene where he is trying to drink a hamburger and fries, I found genuinely disgusting.
I guess it's kind of hypocritical of us to be grossed out by it because that's just what it's going to become after he digests it anyway, but it's still gross. Eating is a sensation and it should be enjoyable, shouldn't it?
It should. But all in all, I found this episode a lot of fun, even though it was very similar to Fonselectomy. I think this is a great send-off for Warren Berlinger, who I think is a terrific character actor and added a lot to Happy Days. So I'm going to recommend It Only Hurts When I Smile. So, Peter, how can people keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things that we are doing?
Listeners can follow us on Twitter at Fonzie Podcast. They can follow me on Twitter at Peter Volfranc. That's PeterVulfranc.
And they can follow me on Twitter at Joe_A_Blevins. They can find this podcast online at thesedaysarsours.libsyn.com. And they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysarspodcast@gmail.com. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket for next week?
Next week, we've got another episode that gives us a glimpse into Fonzie's psyche in Welcome to My Nightmare, or Horror Show.
This is an episode I have been waiting to talk about for quite a while, so see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
It only hurts for a little while. That's what they tell me. That's what they say. It only hurts for a little while, then all your heartache will pass away. It's so easy to be smart with somebody else's heart, but I don't know how to start forgetting you. What can I do? It only hurts for a little while. That's what they tell me. Just wait and see.